Have you noticed that when we read a particular text on the phone, um, it can be as simple as somebody has sent you, "How are you?" Now, it's only three simple words, but when we are reading it with a tone. It could be, "How are you?" A very strict and, tone. It could be, "Hi, how are you?" It could be very loving. So there will be, this is just an example, but it is more evident when the message is a little bigger one, obviously. You get to feel the tone the message has been written in. And this is because we humans, whenever we are saying something, writing something, it is how we are thinking inside is how that is the tone, that is the intention with which we are writing something or speaking something. Now also we need to understand this, that as humans, early humans, we spent a lot of time without words, without language. So our main mode of communication has been the tone, uh, different probably forms of vowels, and the tone behind it would say whether, what somebody else is trying to tell me, whether it's about safety, it's about love, it's about hunger. And the same thing we can see with babies, because when babies are born, of course they're not born talking, right? They take at least 3 years to learn the words and then get into language. So language and words comes really far. So the first 2 years is all about the tone that the parents are using, the grandparents and the family around they are using. And that is how they get to respond to that. Now, where and how is tone connected with self-talk? Very deeply connected, because if you start observing how you talk to yourself in your mind, you will notice that majority of the time our tone of talking to our own self is not a good one. And this has a connection with our childhood. So what happens is, when we are growing up, the tone that is used by our loved ones, especially by our mother, in dealing the problems the child has, like as in the child is cranky, the child is hungry, the child is angry, irritated, especially in the emotions which are which are negative or which are heavier, right? In those cases, how does a mother or a father or the grandparents deal with that emotions of the child? That forms the tone the child will, the subconscious of the child gets programmed with. So when that child grows up into an adult, the programmed tone in the mind is the same one that is helping that adult to deal with the day-to-day situations. So now as an adult, if I'm getting angry, I'm getting irritated, I'm hungry, or I'm cranky, the tone, the voice in my head, the voice in my mind, that is the same as that programmed while in the childhood. Whatever the tone my parents used on me is the same tone I am using very unconsciously inside me. Like, you get it? Like, I am using that tone to deal with the problems now. And that is the reason why most of us are in this constant loop, and we are unable to get out of that loop of negativity. Because every time we are cranky, or every time something bad happens to us, or there is a heavy emotion that we are dealing with, we are not being able to deal with it properly, because the tone in our head is that of how we were dealt with in the childhood. And this has been an ongoing phenomenon for, I think, generations and generations and generations. And this is what we are here to break. So, as I started talking to myself, which I earlier I did not even know that I had to talk to myself. But now that I started talking, and instantly, very quickly in my journey, I realized that, oh, the way I'm talking to myself is absolutely not right, because I'm cranky. Internally also I'm screaming, outside also I'm feel irritated, so there is no point. So the change, and the biggest change, came when I started talking to myself in the way that I want. uh, I would have wanted my parents or my grandparents to have treated me as a when I was a child, because I know that I'm aware now that I have carried a crazy shitload of trauma, generation trauma, from them. And the way they used to talk among themselves in the house. I have grown up in a family, my father's side, where hardly people used to talk, they used to scream at each other all the time, and all cursing each other. So it was not a good environment for a child to grow. So that's what probably was there in my programming somewhere. And when I started to talk to myself, that's the exact tone that I was using to talk to myself. Mostly screaming, mostly irritated, mostly kai, like how earlier, yeah, I mean, like when I asked my mother, okay, that ma, how do you talk to yourself? Do you also have this voice in your head which is very irritated? you know she also is somebody who obviously did not was not aware of it. And when I asked her, and she realized that yes, because when she was growing up, my grandmother used to also be very cranky kind of a mother. Like, she used to, like, hey, don't do this, hey, don't do that, constantly shouting, constantly screaming, not knowing how to deal with the emotions, the heavy emotions the child carries at that time. So this has been a huge generational loop that we have been going. It's been continuing, and now it's time that we break that. And the only way to break it is talk to my own self how I want others to talk to me. With softness, with compassion, with love, with care, with understanding. I mean, when I started, I did something that, if I had a child, or when I will have my child, the way I will speak to her is the same way I started to talk to my own self. And trust me, that changed everything. I mean, all these years I have been struggling. I've been doing so many shadow work, this work, that. I mean, everything is important, of course, but the tone is the most important part of the journey. How I am speaking to myself changes everything, because that changes how I am also speaking to my parents, to my loved ones. Because usually, when I'm getting irritated or angry, I am speaking loudly, and not in a good way, with my parents, with my loved ones, which again I'm feeling guilty, because I don't like to. I don't want to speak like that. It's happening because it's unconscious, and I'm unaware about it when I get so angry. But the moment I started speaking with myself with a lot of compassion, it's basically, I realized that I am talking to my little Asia, the inner Asia, the Chotto baby Asia, whose childhood has been so rough, so tough, who has absorbed so much that was heaviness from the surrounding, and therefore developed a tone like that. So now when I talk to myself, I make sure that I talk to that little Asia very soft, very compassionately, no matter whatever kind of negative or heavy emotions I am going through. And that said, I also believe that once we all start doing this, talking to ourselves with that compassion, with that love and softness and care and understanding that we need, I feel that that will percolate. that'll be absorbed by the surrounding around us. It is in my life, that's a live example I can give you, because once I started doing it, I started seeing change in my mother. I started seeing change in my father. So yeah, it percolated. It was absorbed by the people around. And I feel if we all start doing it, this world would be a better place. I feel that this world will be a much better place to live in if we start talking to ourselves how I want to be treated. I treat myself like that, and that becomes a behavior in me. I integrate that and I behave like that with everybody around. And that will get absorbed in the larger society. And probably this is the way the world heals. Who knows? All right.